Have you heard about Ronald Red, a janitor who died in 2014 with $8 million in savings? Yes, you heard correctly. $8 million for a cleaner. Additionally, he did not inherit any money or win the jackpot. He simply made regular savings throughout his life and let compounding work its magic. The lesson is that your financial behavior often matters more than your intelligence. Even if you don't work on Wall Street or have a Harvard degree, you can become wealthy by simply doing simple things. Financial success is not a precise science, as Morgan Housel notes. It's a soft talent where what you know doesn't matter as much as how you act. Spend the next 10 to 15 minutes watching this video, and you just might succeed in developing your investing soft talent. Here is a list of the book, The Psychology of Money, by Morgan Housel's top 5 takeaways. Lesson 1. Be prepared to pay. Consider that you desire a lovely new watch. You visit the store to look at the selection. You really want to do something that will wow both the attractive woman you're dating and your buddies. Now that you've finished your exercise, you can either pay for the watch or steal it and flee. No matter how physically capable you are, I'd wager that you would pick choice number 1. You would pull out your card and swipe it, acting morally. The important thing is that you are aware that purchasing a new watch has a cost. The same is true of investing. It has a cost as well. Volatility is the main price of investing. This represents the cost or fee for long-term success in any form of investment with large returns. Don't aim only to maximize your returns, because the higher the returns, the more expensive this fee is typically. If you don't have the stomach to stick with it when your net worth drops by, say, 20% in a single week as 2 of your major holdings report quarterly earnings below what analysts expected, don't invest. Let's pretend you could already see Netflix's promising future 10 years ago. You made a huge stock purchase using your whole net wealth. Consequently, you would be pretty wealthy right now. But could you really afford to pay for this trip? During this time, Netflix has experienced numerous severe declines. Would you have remained seated aboard that boat in 2011 when Netflix saw massive user churn and the stock price dropped by 80% from its peak over the course of the following months? Your portfolio's performance would be dismal. What would you say to your partner and children? Could you stand in front of them knowing you might have just jeopardized their future? Would you still believe that it is a good idea to virtually rely on Netflix with all of your holdings? This is obviously an extreme example. But even if your investing strategy is less extreme than going all in on Netflix, you'll still have to deal with volatility. Consider purchasing an S&P 500 index fund in 1980. Your investment portfolio would still have to endure roughly 13 years of decline from its peak. At some point, decreased by 50%. Hard to do that. A terrific thing, investing in the stock market makes it possible to build money unlike few other methods. It doesn't come for free, however, so don't attempt to fool yourself. Volatility is something that all investors must accept as the cost of a more promising future. Lesson 2. Never enough. When you give someone a $2 million bonus, they may be fine until they learn that the person in front of them received a $4 million bonus. At that point, they get ill for the next year. 2 things that capitalism excels at are creating riches and stirring up jealousy. Your desire to outperform your peers, friends, and neighbors can motivate you to put in extra effort and push yourself to make it. Of course, being inspired to work harder and produce more worthwhile work is a wonderful thing, but social comparison may also make us feel inadequate. Let's examine some stats. You would need to make roughly $500,000 per year to be in the top 1% of US income earners. That is the salary of a highly skilled physician. Let's call him Bill, and by nearly any measure, Bill is wealthy. He has the money to buy fine cars, take extended trips to far-off locales, perhaps employ someone to complete laborious tasks, etc. Bill has been feeling good about himself and his career accomplishments. That is, until he purchased a vacation property in the Hamptons and discovered Stan was his next-door neighbor. Now, Stan is a member of the elite 1% of 1%. He is the CEO of a sizable publicly traded company, and his yearly salary is an astounding $10 million. You'd think Stan would at least be content with his financial success, but no. This man was Michael Jordan's childhood pal, and the legendary basketball player is a member of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. And well, Stan's $10 million monthly income now seems like a pittance in comparison to Michael's estimated $2 billion fortune. Does it end there? No, it doesn't in fact. Because Jeff Bezos occasionally comes across Michael at celebrity-themed events. In 2020, Bezos, who is in the top 1% of the 1% of the 1%, boosted his net worth by around $75 billion, bringing it to about $200 billion. The point is, a bigger fish is always out there. The type of envy that has resulted from these kinds of comparisons has led many people throughout history to act foolishly. Some people have heavily leveraged their investments in an effort to climb the pyramid and reach higher levels, only to lose everything and then commit suicide. Some people have taken action based on insider information, which has cost them both their reputation and eventually their freedom when they are put in jail. Many people have abandoned their family, experienced their partners betraying them, leaving them, or doing both. It's likely that if you follow this channel and learn how to invest well, you'll eventually achieve a level of financial freedom that the normal person can only hope to achieve. But eventually, you have to decide that enough is enough. Even if we'd kind of want to have it, we won't exchange something we have and need for something we don't. Lesson 3. Crazy depends on who you ask. At first look, it appears that many people act irrationally in relation to their money. Some people spend money extravagantly on extravagant stuff, while others keep it hidden under their beds. But it's important to keep in mind that people come from various backgrounds, have had various upbringings, and have had various parents, experiences, and educations. All of this results in various viewpoints and ideals. What makes no sense to you might make perfect sense to me. In the book, Morgan provides the example of a lottery ticket. The lowest income U.S. households spend more than $400 annually on the lottery. This is 4 times the highest income group's average. Add to it the fact that almost a third of Americans struggle to come up with $400 for an emergency. Do they buy lottery tickets with their emergency fund? What a ridiculous idea, huh? However, as individuals, we do not share the same worldview. Consider it from their point of view. They frequently lack the education necessary to have a successful career, thus they are unable to save much money, live paycheck to paycheck, cannot afford a good trip or a new car, and cannot afford to send their kids to college without incurring significant debt. Their method of getting into the fantasy that many of us already inhabit is purchasing a lottery ticket. They purchase more lottery tickets than we do because of this. Maybe they are not that insane after all. So how does this improve your ability to invest? One benefit of accepting our individuality is that it helps us resist the urge to mimic an investment plan or portfolio that doesn't align with our own objectives. We may have a higher risk tolerance than someone who is a billionaire, for instance, because we are more concerned with getting rich than staying rich. The billionaire's portfolio may not be the best fit for your objectives. Recognizing disparities can also make it easier for us to decline investments that fall outside of our area of expertise. Consider GameStop as an example. I took no part in this drama at all because I am not a trader. I simply don't have that card to play. You will be better able to understand our society and move down the road that is right for you if you recognize that various individuals have different perspectives, or at the very least, that there are different glasses through which to view the world. Lesson 4. Peekaboo. What ties the financial crisis, COVID-19, World War II, the Great Depression, and World War II together? All these occurrences had a significant impact on the financial markets, changed our society, and were virtually difficult to predict. One of my favorite authors, Nassim Taleb, would refer to these events as black swans. According to the definition of a black swan, 1. It's an anomaly. Nothing that has happened in the past may logically suggest that the occurrence might still happen. 2. It has a significant impact. And 3. It's after the fact that it makes sense. Human nature leads us to believe that we ought to have been able to predict it from the beginning. Consider the year 1987 on Black Monday. How do you think you would have responded had the market lost over a fourth of its value in a single day? Would you have been one of the people screaming, "Sell! Sell!" Or would you have been able to weather the storm, possibly adding more chips that you had been holding back? An interesting fact is that if you had invested in the S&P 500 index 20 years ago, but had missed the 4 best stock market days, your return would have been 164% rather than 291%. That represents a sizable change. The lesson here is that it is better to be mentally and financially prepared for a catastrophe that you cannot predict than to hold out hope that you can act beforehand. Stop listening to macro projections since they are unlikely to predict the upcoming events that will lead the investment community to experience great worry. Lesson 5: The Allure of Pessimism. You would probably be intrigued, and you might come away with a rather pessimistic view of where in the market cycle we are right now if I gave you a bunch of reasons why the market will crash later this year, mentioning the enormous US governmental debt, that stimulus checks may lead to the return of inflation, and perhaps something about new strains of COVID-19. Instead, if I were to give you instances of how life expectancy is increasing, sustainable energy is becoming more affordable, or computing power is skyrocketing, you would probably just shrug your shoulders and not give it any thought. We can all agree that an optimist appears naive in comparison to a pessimist who sounds quite sophisticated. Asymmetry towards loss and listening to pessimists, according to Thinking Fast and Slow author Daniel Kahneman, is an evolutionary tendency. When directly compared or weighted against each other, losses loom larger than gains, he writes. Organisms have a better chance of surviving and procreating if they prioritize threats above possibilities. Evolutionarily speaking, we have a tendency to pay closer attention to pessimists, but we also do so because progress is considerably slower than failure. Setbacks frequently happen overnight, but progress rarely does. Tragedies and failures occur over considerably shorter spans of time, making it simpler to build a compelling narrative around them. As a result, they attract more attention. We must consider larger time horizons in order to write a future-oriented story that is optimistic. This frequently gets less dramatic and more hazy. Knowing that you might find a pessimist more fascinating, and an optimist less so, may help you act less asymmetrically toward it in the future. The world is better than you imagine. Therefore, you cannot become wealthy through the stock market without experiencing instability. Envy is the worst of the 7 deadly sins. Warren Buffett once said, "Never risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need." Different activities are reasonable or rational from different perspectives. Instead of attempting to predict calamities, arm yourself with the knowledge and resources necessary to survive them. You should also exercise caution when adopting investment advice. Recognize that optimism appeals less to your survival instincts than does pessimism. That was all there was to say for today, but not from Morgan Housel. Look into the book. It's truly wonderful. Please share your thoughts in the space below, and don't forget to give this video a like. To watch more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel. Check out the following video if you like this one.